Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode of Hollywood Backlot with Lou and you. My name is VashSky, your host. Thanks very much.
Hello.
And, well, the person with the soundboard is LW Ghost. Hello there, Lou.
Hi. Here we are again on an unexpected day, but what the heck? Any day is a good day to meet up with you online and entertain the troops, as we say.
That's kind of the way I figure it. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have our show yesterday, but you know what? Lou came up with a great idea. He's like, look, listen, let's go ahead and move it back a day and make it a Memorial Day special, which I do agree with. I think it's this fantastic day to, to celebrate right there. And a fantastic way to celebrate those who made the ultimate
trivialize the many sacrifices of the people we memorialize today, and God bless them all. But considering how many movies have dropped dead lately, I guess there's some of those buried in Hollywood too.
that's rough, Lou.
I know. But what can I say?
Apparently, the weekend box office has actually been doing very, very well. I think I think Lilo and Stitch is up to like $340 million. That is absolutely wild. And sorry about the lack of lighting and everything. It was it was a heck of an adventure to get everything up and running right now. Don't worry, everything will improve as time goes along here. But I want to go ahead and share this on the screen. Let me go ahead and see if I can do that. A really incredible
I feel
opening
like
weekend
you're
for a lot of.
Tinkerbell, and we should all applaud and say we believe in you.
Thanks. I do appreciate it. Luis Fernando. Here we go. Tom Cruise puts his third film in the Memorial Day all-time top 20 opening scoring a Mission Impossible record at U.S. box office. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning grosses $63 million on 3-day opening weekend, beating Fallout at $61.2 million, previous franchise 3-day record. It does seem like this entry into the Mission Impossible saga is doing much better than the last one, which is good. Obviously not nearly as good as Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch is on a whole nother level when it comes to the box office tally. And the unfortunate thing about this production is that, well, it was filmed during the COVID era and also during the strikes. So, Lou, you talk about it all the time, but
how long are they going to blame COVID and the strikes, for God's sakes? There were a lot of bad movies, period. This is a good one, period. People know it, so they want to go see it. And we have to remember, when we look at these records, aside from the usual adjusted for inflation, there are more and more and more and more large format theaters out there now than there were back in those days. And they charge more money, and therefore the box office goes up from that. So
they sure do. And it's not to denigrate the box office numbers associated with this film. It's actually talking about the budget. So the budget for this is like $400 million, which I don't know, Lou. I mean, that's going to be a hard stretch to.
They'll get it back.
You think so?
Back one way. Oh yeah, sure they will. And let's also remember that some of these other turkeys we've had don't play as well overseas as the Mission movies do. Although from the reviews I've read, I haven't seen it yet, but I saw one review, John Nolte in Breitbart. He said, the last hour of this movie is so fantastic, it's just a shame it takes 11 hours to get there.
Yeah.
But the first part is very talky and expositional. And of course, that's why normally action movies do better overseas, because they don't get lost in translation. So we shall see. But
that's a good point. That's a really good distinction right there. If you're looking at the screen right now, folks, this is part of the reason why I think it was as expensive as it was because of just some of the amazing stunt work associated with this film, particularly this sequence right here. Now, apparently, according to Tom, they're not showing much of this sequence here, but the amount of work that went into something like this was truly remarkable. Let's see if I have
it only takes a lot of work if you don't want to kill your star. If you don't care, it's real easy to do. But,
that's a good point right there. Yes, you can see a little bit of of what's going on here. Now, this actually is Tom Cruise flying a Boeing Stearman right here, which is it's not the safest aircraft to fly. I'll put it that way. It takes a lot of skill.
It's been around forever, and yeah, it's pretty safe. Just to fly it, Stearmans are pretty tough. They really are.
Well,
but fly it in the angles and directions that he does, not so much. And let's not forget, the reason why there are two wings is because there are therefore two lifting surfaces to keep the damn thing in the air at all those funny angles. So that helps.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point. We have, but I think the thing getting all the praise, at least from your reviewer that you were commenting about the last half of the movie, this stuff right here, this wing walking, is truly remarkable stuff. And apparently Tom Cruise was inspired by the wing walkers of the bygone era, basically, to in terms of cinema, in order to perform some of these amazing aerial stunts right here. And to talk more about just how dangerous this was for Tom Cruise to do, we have a special guest on right now. She's actually been on this entire time, but you haven't heard her until now. Disney Dose Deborah, are you there?
Hi, Vash. Hi, Lou. It's so great to be on with you.
A pleasure to have you.
It is so fantastic to have you on. I know we were talking about this before in conversations prior to this show, and I really wanted to provide the audience a sense of just how insane this was, because when we were speaking, it was very clear to me that not only were you very versed on the subject, but I think you had a great understanding that you could provide for our audience that maybe would have us appreciate it more. So it's the level of danger we're discussing right here. You've known in your lifetime 3 wing walkers, is that correct?
I have had a very close dear friend who worked with the Silver Wing Walkers, Margie Stevers, and she started wing walking in November of 1991 and had a wonderful career of over 20 years. And she flew with her husband, and they did have a Stearman, and it was just a wonderful privilege to know her. And but I also knew another dear wing walker, Jane Wicker, who lost her life in 2013 at an air show, and it was a fiery crash at an Ohio air show where she and her pilot were killed in front of an audience, unfortunately. But that was, they determined it was due to pilot error. And Jane was on the wing, sitting on the wing, and the plane then went down.
Well, and the other thing you have to remember about air shows is that the stunts are performed pretty close to the ground. You haven't got a lot of room to recover if you make a mistake, as opposed to being way up there and having a few thousand feet of altitude to figure out what's going on.
That's right, Lou. You're totally right about that. They did have Todd Green, who died at 48 years old at an air show. But what he was doing is he was on the wing and he was trying to reach for a helicopter that was flying above. And he lunged and did not reach the helicopter. He tried to get back to the plane, and that attempt did not work, and he fell 150 feet to his death. So there's been a couple of tragic accidents. But all in all, I think that, it's been a wonderful thing for people to see these wing walkers, and they have since the 1920s been doing this, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. Someone flying in the air like that.
And there have been some notable accidents, not so much wing walkers, but just making pictures. The most famous that I know of is the James Bond movie, You Only Live Twice, where little Nell is being chased by 3 bad guy helicopters. Mm-hmm. Guy lost his legs. He was hanging out of the door of one of the planes to cameraman, and the helicopter blade got too close and boom, there went both of his legs. And they actually had to finish the scene. It was originally shot in Japan over those craters, but they shot the rest of the scene later in the Pyrenees because the black mountains there resembled the Japanese ones. But that's what people do for their art. And, you plan it.
Lou, do you know anything about the Great Waldo Pepper movie that Robert Redford starred in?
Yeah.
I understand he did the wing walking on that.
And I have feelings about that movie. I always use that movie as an example of Hollywood decision-making because they said, hey, we got the same director from The Sting. We got Robert Redford. We got that same, the 20s were all brown shades look. It's got to be a hit. No, it doesn't because the movie sucked. But they did some amazing stuff to make it anyway. That's true.
Yeah, the Robert Redford sequence there with that wing walking, it's pretty remarkable when you actually see it on camera because it's like, whoa, I mean, that took some expertise in order to bring that to life, at least back then. And you can see that right here. A little bit of that. I mean, these type of aerial stunts are extremely, extremely dangerous. And the other helicopter incident that I can think of in Hollywood that was a big
well, yeah, sure, I know what
Transformer.
you're going to say.
Yeah, it's Twilight Zone.
Some blame could be attached to certain people in that, but
right. That's to me is what makes this this kind of stuff right here with Tom Cruise just more remarkable because obviously the danger is there, and I think Deborah and I had the same question for you, Lou. How do you even insure for something like this, or do you?
You self-insure.
Yeah.
You certainly can't get an insurance company to go for it, and you shoot it last, so you have the rest of the movie if something goes wrong.
See, that's what Deborah said. that's
you
very
absolutely
interesting.
Shoot at the very last thing, like they did with that motorcycle stunt in the last one. So you get all the rest of it in the can, and then you cross your fingers and hope for the best. But certainly, no traditional insurance or completion bond company is gonna go for this.
Right.
And there have been lots of cases of stars who did their own stuff against the wishes of the studio and the insurers. Even we found on the genre guys when we were doing the classic Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, he liked to fly and had a plane, and was doing lots of weird stunting up there in Chico where they were shooting it. And the insurance people came down like a ton of bricks and said, "Not till the movie's over, Errol." So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's some of the stuff is just absolutely outrageous. Apparently, they trained for months in order to figure out the aerial acrobatics they would actually do with the plane and how he could.
Then what if the weather changes? What if the wind shifts? What if, there's so many possibilities.
And you're going to have to do this multiple times. So you probably only get, Lou, probably 3 hours of good sunlight so that it doesn't look like you're cutting between the sequences.
Yeah, more or less. But a reel of film, even digitally, has limits.
Yeah, right.
So, when he did the Top Gun stuff, where he's in the back cockpit of the two, or maybe the front, I forget which, but he's turning it off and on the camera himself because nobody can do it from the ground and be at the right moment. There's a lot of factors that go into these things, and you hope for the best.
Indeed.
And I was just wondering when I saw those scenes of him with his hair being blown into a kind of a modified Mo Howard bowl cut by the thing.
Yeah, that's sequence.
I don't know. There. He's 61, too, something like
62, I believe.
Well, so I only have 10 years on him, and I won't do this. I just want to let you all know I will not do this.
So Deborah,
my brother, who was a retired commercial pilot, always said, "I see no reason to get out of a perfectly good airplane to jump with a parachute." So, but then pilots have that expression, any landing you can walk away from is a good one. So,
I wanted to ask you, Deborah. Apparently, they were doing like jackhammers. They were doing hammerhead, kind of dives. These are kind of aerial maneuvers that you do with these planes right here. But I think the most dangerous one is definitely when it inverts, right? Because we were talking about how these things can stall out, and apparently on this production, it did several times.
That's right.
Which is insane. Which is so crazy to think about. I mean, it's like.
But
go ahead.
They practice, many, many hours to get things right. They very much are safety conscious when they're doing things like this. So they don't want to lose anyone.
And they have some anticipation of a stall because there's a thing called a stick shaker that when you're starting to approach stall, vibrates the control yoke to warn you. But
absolutely,
it can be real
right.
interesting. My brother, the pilot, told me about when he was running the simulator for one of the airlines, and they had like a week where they were just told, here, do everything you want to do with it to learn how it works really well so you can teach other people. And so he was in a 727 simulator and decided to fly under the Golden Gate Bridge in the simulator. He says, and the simulator got very confused because it knew that wasn't ground down there, so it wasn't going to crash, but it knew it was water. Anyway, he basically turned it into a seaplane in the simulator, and the plane landed on the water. And it's like he's sitting there in the simulator, and it's bobbing up and down, and the Golden Gate is over his head. And I guess I'll just rev it up and take off. So he did that, and it worked in a simulator. So that was an interesting experience.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness gracious! And what you're seeing right now on screen, folks, apparently you've the air moving behind the propellers, going kind of the speed of sound, is what Cruise was saying, and so that's where you get those tremendous G forces and that crazy wind you're seeing on screen right now. It's so intense.
The pilot can fly in a way that kind of sticks you to the wing by putting the lift underneath, and
right.
So it's all I mean, and the obvious question is, how the hell do you rehearse? The answer is you plan it all out on the ground, but you shoot the rehearsal, because if you get it right, you're done.
Right.
And if you don't, you're done.
Yeah, exactly. Now, apparently, they wanted dives in such a way that they would have them go 0G in between the wings, which creates a more dramatic effect in filming, but unbelievably dangerous as well.
He's pretty much, but see, because like 0G in what they call the vomit rocket, the airplane that we've seen a lot of celebrities go up in, where they fly a parabola and they're floating around. That's different than this, because you don't have the wind. You don't have all of those crosswinds and the wind being created by the motion. So, yeah.
And you can actually see that footage there that we were playing before of the wing walker Margaret, in which she was battling with pretty intense winds as well. So just kind of. It's something that you have to combat.
We will not believe that this is anything other than terribly dangerous until Katy Perry does it. That's all I've got to
say. Kiss the ground, right? Now, Deborah, you were referring to a multitude of incidents that have happened to your friends, and there was one particular incident that is actually kind of featured in this film. Now, obviously, the story that you were relaying to me, apparently there was a wing walker in which the engine caught on fire, and unfortunately she was out of the cockpit, did not make it back in time. So unfortunately she was burned by those flames. And
she was burned.
Later passed
and
away.
Then we lost her later on. It was very, very tragic. Her husband was the pilot, and very, very tragic for the aviation community. She was very well liked, young, beautiful, talented, and so you never want to lose someone like that. And it was very, very tragic. But we have wing walkers that have lived long lives and done miraculous things. There was a wing walker named Lillian Boyer, and she wing walked until the FAA, the federal government, shut her down due to regulations. And so she wing walked until 1929. And that's when these federal regulations came in on low-flying airplanes and unsafe planes. But she would go, she would be riding in a car, and the plane would be above her, and she would grab a ladder from the plane and crawl up on the ladder and get up on the wing and on top of the plane. She was very brave, and she never had an accident and had a very lustrous career. So you just never know.
Wow. And that's the thing, folks, is as much as you might be able to plan, a gust of wind, especially with that low altitude stuff that occurred in the beginning of this aerial stunt sequence in the film, that could throw you off course, and that's it. And I just found it like, because I remember you telling me about that story of the engine fire, and that happens in the film with Tom Cruise outside. Now, of course, it's probably CGI or something else, but I was like, whoa, that's a pretty that's an extraordinary event.
Well, and then of course I forget which number mission it was where they did the thing with the cargo ramp and sliding the whole thing out the back, and that can get interesting too. That can get real interesting.
Yeah, of course. And apparently, Tom related, at least to Jimmy Fallon when he was being interviewed, like he's got a number of different aerial stunts that he wants to accomplish in his lifetime. So even at 62, he's thinking about the next one, which is pretty remarkable. And now we're hearing conversations about Top Gun Maverick or Top Gun 3, and maybe Mission Impossible could in some way be continued with enough time. We'll just have to see. But
I don't think so. I think he actually said, "Hey, what about finale? Don't you understand?" But
well, that's the thing. I've heard this before from.
Of course, there's that old "never say never again" thing, with Bond and Connery. So anyway, it's a fascinating subset of movie stuntdom, and movie stunt people are crazy anyway.
Absolutely.
They just are. I mean, golly, helicopters are even worse. I mean, they really, really are. I mean, my brother had a friend who was a flight instructor who crashed 3 times in one day in Vietnam.
Whoa.
Yeah, because the helicopter came down. They were heading back for the base, and it came down about 300 yards outside the perimeter of the base because they ran out of gas. He told the officer who was running things that he was going to run out of gas, and he said, no, we'll be fine. Surprise. So they literally had guys running out with bullets flying with jerry cans full of gas to fuel it up and take off again and fly into safety. And then one more time during that day they came in.
Wow.
And then he told me about one where he was flying one of these, the classic Bell helicopters, with the bubble, back from a service thing to their airport in Santa Monica from Orange County, and something went wrong, and he had to auto rotate in, which is when you basically let the wind spin the propeller enough to get you to cushion somewhat a landing. And they came down in a lady's backyard in Orange County, and he got out, and she came running outside, and he leaned over and picked up one of her lawn sprinklers that they'd hit and said, "I think I broke your sprinkler." And she was just sitting there shocked because there was this helicopter in her backyard. But he survived that one too. So
wow.
He did a lot of movie work. A guy named Mish Hauserman was in a lot of movie flying work.
Goodness gracious. Well, and
and then we could talk about trains and the stuff that have happened on trains with movies. I think I mentioned to somebody in that scene in How the West Was Won with all the logs on the train. That killed somebody, and at that point the U.S. Railroad said, "Nope, not using our railroads anymore for movies for about 15, 20 years. Yeah. And that's why all the stuff in Silver Streak was shot up in Canada, where apparently they preferred the money to the worries of risk. So,
wow.
Although that big finale where the Silver Streak crashes into the station was actually done in one of the Lockheed hangars at Burbank Airport. And that wasn't a real train, of course. But
oh, man. Well, there was one final aspect that I wanted to go ahead and bring out. A couple, actually. One, which I found very interesting, was that apparently the red Boeing Stearman that was actually used in the filming of Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, well, apparently it was a Stearman that had been meticulously restored over 20 years or so and made its appearance in the movie. And that's kind of the Stearman that you see right here being flown there. Very, very cool stuff. Awesome aviation there. And also, too, I think, what is it? Deborah, the Top Gun, experience that's going to be out there in Vegas?
Yes, by the Strat.
Right. And they're going to have not just flight simulators, but also that bar from the second movie.
It's just
is going to be
recreated. Yes.
That's so cool. Let me see if I can share this on screen. Now, apparently, we did see that the P-51 that, is Tom Cruise's, is outside. At least in the concept art, we're thinking that this, at least I'm thinking anyway, that this might actually be a replica. But you can see that right here.
Yeah, that's all just art. But
right.
And they're talking about building more of these around the country in various places, not just in Vegas, but Vegas, of course, first.
Right. Oh man, I think this is super cool. And smart on Paramount to license out to the company actually doing this, and actually putting this on. It's a very, very smart way of getting your IP out there. Not too dissimilar from what Disney actually does. This kind of flywheel
when you
that
talk
we
about
heard about before.
Replicas, when they made the TV series Baba Black Sheep, there were literally 4 Corsairs left that could fly, and they're all in that show. And when they needed to show a bigger squadron, one would roll out, come in behind the next one, and you'd see this long line of planes, but you're really only seeing 4 at a time because that's all there were.
Right.
And of course, that was shot out in Ventura County, doubling as Vela La Cava and all those islands out in the Pacific. But man, the Corsair was an interesting airplane. Very, very interesting airplane. In fact, here's a 6 degrees of separation.
Please.
Why was Disney Orlando Airport originally, its code was MCO? Not what it is now.
I've always
because it used to be McCoy Field, which is where they trained guys to fly Corsairs in World War II.
Well, there you go. And here's the
famous Gullwing Corsair. Yeah, it
it
was a pretty amazing airplane. That's the one I would have flown if I had a choice.
yeah. That's with the open cockpit, right? Something that's enclosed.
It's closed, but you can see there. But it's got this endlessly. If you've ever seen one, I think there's one not that flies, but down at San Diego museum there in Balboa Park. I know they have a Catalina down there too. The PBY. These things, they made thousands of them, and then they were gone because, we came up with something new that's better. Junk those, and they did.
Oof! There you go.
Thousands. And as I was mentioning, I was talking with Ron earlier today of the Bradleys. Fun. I should look that book up and give people the link. A fascinating book if you're into military history. All about the logistical train. In other words, it wasn't enough that you had to build 10,000 fighters and train a bunch of pilots. You needed mechanics out on the carriers and in the airfields. And they were not around either. So they set up a whole training process with schools to turn out these guys. and went from like none to 150,000 guys trained in various aspects of airplane maintenance for World War II. Anyway, it's an interesting article that says, everybody talks about, well, our production might and our industrial engine is what won the war. Yeah, sure. But unless you got somebody to change the spark plugs and fix the brakes and all that, it's useless. So anyway, let's see if I can find it.
Well, Deborah, I know you have limited time, so I just wanted to go ahead and ask you, was there anything else you wanted to include as part of your experience with this very almost niche part of aviation?
Well, I think I'm just going to read to you what Margaret Stevers, my dear friend, had on her website. And it's about wing walking. And it says, wing walking is a mentally deliberate action where muscles react faster than thought. It is seconds of movement where each second is backed by years of practice, allowing the brain to be mentally unflustered. It is not a risk, but a calculated decision to exploring a sport in an extreme environment, and through intensive actual experience, discovering one's own style and sculpting it into art. I thought that was so beautiful what she had on her website. And it's been a pleasure talking with you both, and thank you for having me on the show.
Great to have you.
You have a lovely, Memorial Day, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
See you real soon. MOUSE, as they say.
There
you go.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Very much appreciate that, indeed. And I, when speaking about this to her, it was so profound because it was kind of this lost art here, and to even see a wing walker actually, do a stunt. Is very, very rare nowadays. And to have somebody who knew three, well, I just had to have her on, especially as it relates to Mission Impossible.
Absolutely.
So I thought that was pretty fun.
Glad you did, and glad you know her, and glad she knows you, and like that. So here, let's see. I gave you a couple of links there. The first one is this book I mentioned that's all about building up the infrastructure to handle the expansion of air power in the Pacific, particularly. And the second one, as long as we're on Memorial Day, is a fascinating study of the Annapolis class of 1940, which was the last complete year that they got the full 4-year program, because after that, with the war coming on, they started shrinking it and shortening it and like that. And where all these guys wound up and what they did in the war. And one of them was actually survived the sinking of the Arizona. Just amazing, amazing stories. So there's a couple of books for Memorial Day. That one there, Annapolis Goes to War, is about the class of 1940 of Navy and Marine officers. And interestingly, they went to Germany in the late 30s on a tour with one of the battleships. And then this is the one about the carrier war. And then if you're really of a historical bent, you gotta, golly, let me get the first one up, because this, let's see here. If you think you know the revolution and the Revolutionary War and how it all went down, no, you don't. Not till you read these books. This is the first one, and the second one just came out, and there's going to be a third because he's covering the whole war in 3 books. But this thing tells you more stuff you didn't know about what life was like back then, and what war was like back then, and what was happening in London, and what was happening in Paris, and what was happening in the Caribbean, as well as on the battlefields of the Revolution. And like I say, the second one just came out, which is, I forget what it's called, but you can find the link from there. If you are at all interested in the history of that period, you must read this book. It will just captivate you, truly. And Rick Atkins is a wonderful historian as well. Anyway, there's my reading list.
Absolutely. I think that's that absolutely remarkable. Some of these books, particularly about this one right here, the Naval Academy class of 1940 here.
That's just astounding. I mean, it starts with these. First of all, how they got in, because there were different ways to get an appointment to the academy. You could get your local congressman to appoint you, but there were also tests you could take. And some people who didn't get accepted went into the service as enlisted men to build up a couple years experience and then reapplied, because there was a program for bringing people up from within too. Anyway, I'm noticing in the chat, Liam talking about Midway. Yeah, well, it was the carriers. My God. Anyway, well, of course, yes. The Japanese had a totally different training system. See, with us, if you flew a certain number of missions, they sent you back to train the new guys and teach them something. With them, they fought till they died, because it would be beneath their Bushido honor to do otherwise. And the new kids could basically, they got them up in the air to be kamikazes, and that was it. Anyway, fascinating books, all those books.
Indeed, and documented in Hollywood multiple multitude of times. Obviously, not to the great depth that a book can provide, but
well, if the movies about these wars tantalize you and you want to know more, and you feel like maybe your school didn't go into all the details, boy, good, well-written history professionals like these, boy, and there's so many good ones. And anyway, Hollywood. Is that what we're supposed to talk about? Hollywood?
I hear
hooray for Hollywood. You may be homely in your neighborhood, but if you want to be an actor, see Mr. Factor. He'll make your kisser look good. Go on and try your luck. You could be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood. That's the actual lyric.
Indeed. Yeah, I actually attended a wedding yesterday, and while I was there, I actually went to, because, I mean, it was probably 5 minutes south of Hollywood Boulevard, so I had to jump back up, and I was like, you know what, I gotta get B-roll. So I got a series of B-roll. I'd be showing it to you
before
right
it goes
now,
away. But
man,
Boulevard.
It's rough.
You know, when I was growing up in LA, Hollywood Boulevard, we used to say you could go tomorrow or you could go 6 months from now, and either way, it's always worse. Because
so true.
It just oh God.
It's rough. It's you're not lying. It's very, very rough. Let me see if I can get some B-roll here real fast. Lou, why don't you go ahead and tell us about this week's jukebox?
Oh, yeah. I forgot Vincent Price could sing. But he did in the soundtrack to The Great Mouse Detective, where he played Rattigan, the bad guy. And we've got a link, if you look in the description, to a wonderful suite of the music by Henry Mancini, including Vincent Price singing his hallmark song as the wonderful evil bad guy that he was in that film. In fact, I even have some of the original cells of him as Rattigan that I picked up once upon a time. Great movie, by the way, fun movie. Basil of Baker Street, The Great Mouse Detective.
Yes, the original title for Great Mouse Detective before Jeffrey Katzenberg came in and said, no, you have to go with this one. Okay.
Yeah, well.
All right, Jeffrey. We'll go ahead and do it that. We'll go ahead and do it your way. But very, very cool. Let me see if I can get that up on screen, actually. Sorry, guys.
On screen? Why
yeah.
would we do a silly thing like that? It's a TV show, by God.
Indeed. Let me see here. But Great Mouse Detective, by the way, a lot of people consider that to be the start of the Renaissance, although...
I noticed Liam talking about, that's very true, Liam, the different attitude towards damage control on ships in the Pacific. The Japanese had specialized teams. The Americans taught everybody how to put out a fire and everybody how to shore up a weakening bulkhead with the material that they had. And it made a difference. There you go. The Great Mouse Detective. Basil. Anyway, I don't think we can play it, but you can look at it. And then in your privacy of your own home, this is our workaround because there's so much wonderful music in the movies that. And what we've been doing, by the way, lately with the genre guys, I don't know if you've gotten to the more recent ones yet, but we're putting a link to the trailer in the description so people can see how it was sold in the day.
That's a good idea. I like that.
So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. We just did The Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe with Tony Randall and all kinds of great people, and directed by the great George Pal. It was his last feature. And what a wonderful, magical, strange, oddball, overlooked, but beloved once discovered movie that is The Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe. And we did Mary Poppins. And we're doing You Only Live Twice. And we've got a lot of wonderful things on the schedule for that. And of course, you'll see them here eventually. But if you remember, if you're watching the pro show and somebody starts, as some of our wonderful supporters do, giving out 10, 20, 30 memberships and you got one, that means you can see all those things right then as a member perk. It also means, and I keep stressing this because people get surprised, when you get given a membership, great, it's for a month, but after a month, not us, we wouldn't hassle you, but YouTube would, and they'll send you a little, hey, don't you want to re-up? It's only X number of dollars. It's not us begging for money. It's them suggesting you may want to sustain it, and certainly you may want to. But we didn't do it. They did. Honest.
Well, I mean...
Did we manage to get through a whole show without talking about Epic in the week that Epic opened? Is that possible?
That's trhave Yes. We're going to hold off on the Epic talk until we actually get to T3PO Live because, I think we have to build up a little bit of anticipation right there.
Oh, look.
That is for sure.
My old stomping grounds.
Yes, that's Hollywood Boulevard for you right there. And, well, I try to make it... I tried to provide the best aspects of it and, not focus on, well... the smell in some places, the interesting
clever segue
to
Tom Cruise. You got the Scientology building in the shot. Anyway.
Did I really? Oh yes, I did. I didn't even notice that. Yeah,
and the Ripley's Museum, and then right next to it, if you just let it run to the very end of that and freeze it, because very famous building there. When I said to be an actor, see Mr. Factor. Well, Max Factor's makeup building is there. It isn't theirs anymore, but a little bit further. It's the next building down the block. That one with the purple lights, that's Max Factor, or was in the golden era. There you go. See, you've got Max Factor. Hollywood Museum. Well, that was originally Debbie Reynolds was going to turn that into her museum because she collected all kinds of interesting stuff, but then she took it all to Hollywood. So, yeah, she's got that. Her state, whatever, has that amazing curtain from Around the World in 80 Days from the Carthay Circle, with the sequence at the beginning and the end with the credits, with the symbol for Passepartout being the bicycle and the symbol for Phileas Fogg being the watch and for Aisha the veil, and they run through all the different areas. That entire thing in gold embroidery on a red velvet curtain was the curtain that they made for the opening at the Carthay Circle, the original Carthay Circle, which is of course long gone.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyhow, yeah, that's Hollywood. That's Groovy Valley Hooly.
You can see the Roosevelt Hotel across from the Grauman Chinese Theater right there.
Well, and if the Roosevelt, of course, is where the first Academy Awards were held. In the, I forget they call it the Rose Room or something, but it's a ballroom there. And there's the real Chinese, for those of you who've only seen the Disney Doppelganger. And that's where Mary Poppins premiered, as we know. And, the Chinese. And down the way is the Egyptian, which was also a Grauman creation. Boy, what a crowd that night.
Yeah, I was actually pretty surprised. This is Sunday night,
Yeah.
and there were plenty of people on the streets for sure. But you can kind of see the names of some of the people featured right there. Jack Nicholson, obviously, and just a whole lot more. I really
Jack Nicholson.
love the Hollywood history.
Yeah, he used to hang out there all the time. I told the story, didn't I, about the telephone number? When we first moved to Beverly Hills when I was in 6th grade, telephone prefixes covered a lot more ground than they do now because there were fewer phones. And our telephone was one number off from Grauman's Chinese. And my father, God bless him, was a funny guy. And somebody called up one time, and in those days there wasn't all the automatic push 1 for this, 2 for that. It was all people answering the phone at theaters when you called. And somebody called and said, "Is Mary Poppins playing there?" And my father said, "No, but if I see her, I'll tell her to come right home." So, or one time we got a call and they said, "Is this Grauman's?" Well, there was a famous mortuary company in LA called Grauman's. Mm-hmm. And my father answered the phone, "Not Grauman's, Grauman's. How may we help you in your time of need?" Or another time he answered, "Grauman Chinese laundry, no tiki, no shirty," so he had a ball with that. But we were one number off from the Chinese theater.
Oh, wow.
Bradshaw or Crestview were the 2 prefixes for all of the west side of LA, including Beverly Hills.
I didn't even notice the trash there. Yeah.
And of course, if you see the older stuff, you'll note that there was an awning that came out, and the box office was actually out near the street. But they took that out a while back, yeah. And then the El Cap, of course. What a wonderful place! What a wonderful place! And to the right of it there, the Masonic Hall. Inside of there and behind that is where Kimmel does his show.
Right.
And yeah. And if you're ever there, folks, you do want to go in the Roosevelt Hotel and go up on the 2nd floor mezzanine where they have a very, very complete history section of all the different wonderful Hollywood things that happened there.
Indeed.
And when I was a kid, that El Capitan was a Paramount theater, and they covered all that beautiful, wonderful stuff in kind of a, I guess you'd call it rose gold, kind of a covering. And they had to uncover it, of course, to do the El Cap and completely restore it.
When Disney bought it, they actually did like what they would call like almost like a museum quality restoration.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, they found stuff. They found all kinds of interesting stuff when they did it. Of course, they did it, first of all, as kind of a trial with a theater called The Crest, which is a little theater in Westwood, just south of Wilshire Boulevard. And then they did the big deal with the El Cap. And if you go looking around online, you can find, we should make it a jukebox one time, probably, what was called the curtain show at the El Capitan, because when Disney redid it, they had, the first movie that played there was The Rocketeer, and James Horner did the score for that. So they had him also do a theme music for the theater. And these various curtains would open one after another to this marvelous Hollywood themed music. And it was pretty special.
Wow.
And there's also, of course, a big organ there that occasionally gets played. And in fact, I was there once when they were playing the Fantasmic music on the organ, which was kind of neat.
That's cool.
Yeah. But in the days when it was the Paramount, they had taken out that box office, and it was out here on the street on the right-hand side, I remember. And also downstairs, there's this whole kind of lounge area that was a bar in the old days, because the El Cap, among other claims to fame, is where Citizen Kane premiered. I don't know if you knew that, because it was independent and they could book it, as opposed to all the ones that were saying, no, thank you. We don't want to get Mr. Hearst mad. And it had the stage, of course, not just a movie screen. Most of the other ones are just movies, and that's it. And there's Jimmy Kimmel. And when they first had the El Cap going, they took over the Masonic Hall there too, and did special prop shows and things from the movies that were playing. I remember for Toy Story, they had all the various props that they built to kind of previs the animation. Hollywood.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing history.
Let's see.
Yeah, I didn't get too many stars only because it's, you don't want to be filming people's feet the whole time. But here you go. Let me see if I can.
And of course, over by the Chinese, there's all these people that dress up as comic book characters and hassle you to have your picture taken with them for a fee. And two Batmans or three Supermans will show up and they'll have a fist fight about who gets the priority. So that's always amusing.
Yeah, I mean it's and those characters were out in full force for sure. In fact, if I were to play the audio, I think of this clip, people are yelling Spider-Man and all these different things behind me. So it's
but they don't pose for free, folks. They want to get paid for being in your selfie. So.
Oh yes, absolutely. But you can see that just the amazing architecture attached to this building right here. It definitely is the definition of a movie palace.
When I was writing for a major LA magazine, their offices were up in that building, and so I've been up in those offices there too.
That's interesting. I had no idea there were offices up there. Wow.
Oh yeah. And it was interesting. You got off the elevator on their floor, and to the left was the editorial offices, and to the right was the ad offices to kind of show that they were keeping things clean. Until the day I got a phone call from somebody in the advertising department who I'd never met. Hi, you do that column, don't you? Yes. Well, we have some great clients that would love to be in your column. I said, swell, shove it. Journalistic integrity being what it is, I would not stoop.
Of course.
But anyway.
Yeah, I mean.
Points for trying, And then they put in that candy store with Ghirardelli next door and ice cream and all kinds of stuff.
Yep. Which I think I have the clip down there. Kind of see a little bit of that. What that looks like.
Hollywood.
And we have what Matt B. I wonder what they will use the space for when Jimmy Kimmel needs to find a new job. That's the Kodak Theater. Is that?
No. Kodak Theater's across the street.
Oh, I see. Yes. You're right. And that's where they filmed.
Well, maybe they'll dedicate it to Bob, like they did with the one in New York, and destroy the theater next to it in the process of rebuilding it. I don't know.
Yeah, indeed. Oh man, but definitely a lot of Hollywood movie history around. Yeah, exactly. What's the smell like? Yeah. It can get tough in some places.
The later it gets, the more fragrant it gets, I would guess. But
yes.
I haven't been back in years, and I have no great urge to go. But
absolutely. I wouldn't. It's you just want to watch yourself when you're down there. I'll put it that way.
And I remember when I think the first movie I ever saw actually at the Chinese was Goldfinger.
Oh, okay.
I remember going there to see that and finding it fascinating. And then when they did Sense-Around, we covered not Earthquake, but Midway on the. Did we do Midway or did we do? I think. Well, anyway, they strung. If you've been in the real Chinese or even in the miniature simulation in Florida, there's all these hanging Chinese lanterns and statues and things up in the ceiling. Well, they hung a cargo net over the audience so that just in case it shook any of that loose, it wouldn't fall on people. Right. I don't know whether they really thought it would fall on people or whether it was strictly kind of PR for Sense-Around, but still. Natalie Wood, Jane Fonda. My goodness.
Yes, I do believe. I think I had one. Oh yes, the only one I had to flip around because it didn't go horizontal on me. That's great. I'll have to edit that. But yeah, there's and at the front of the Grauman's Chinese Theater is Well, you can find like Darth Vader, C-3PO, and R2-D2 handprints as well, which is pretty cool.
Well, is it technically a handprint?
Well, that's a fair point. You can see it right there. I had to flip this. Sometimes that happens when you're because I did this pretty quick actually because I only had very, very limited time in order to do something like this, and also too.
Glad you got it, but
you don't want to be parking on Hollywood Boulevard for very long because, well, you know.
You mean you got a street parking place? Golly.
I got actually.
I'm impressed if you did. If you didn't, I understand. But
behind Mel's Diner, there's a
okay, yeah, right.
There's a tiny little parking lot, and usually you get to pay like $20 for it or whatever. The guy went home, so I was like, "Oh, great, fantastic!" So I got out, zipped down, and got as much as I could. But you're going to be seeing this in a lot of TPP stuff.
If you had to pay for it, what was the price tag? I'm curious, like $25 or something crazy like that.
20.
Yeah, 20. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, it's not the cheapest adventure in the world, but for this, it was totally worth it for me because
Stitch on stage before the movie. Ooh, how exciting!
Oh yes, absolutely. That's part of that $340 million box office haul. My goodness gracious. And that film, by the way, guys, I believe the budget was $100 million originally set for Disney Plus. So it was a little bit modest in that regard. And
well, certainly compared to Elio at $300 million. Are they crazy? Yes, they are.
Absolutely ridiculous. It shouldn't be a thing, but it will be. And so that means that they'll have to earn well over $1 billion to get their money back on that picture. But for something like Lilo and Stitch, an already established franchise, you have a modest budget. This thing is going to do gangbusters for the Walt Disney Company. It's unfortunate that it's going to have to make up for the losses incurred by stuff like Snow White.
All of these latter-day hits are making up for all the misses. And anyway.
Now, before we leave, Lou, I want to go ahead and highlight your article right here that you had in That Park Place. Make sure.
Oh, that one. I got a few more coming down the pipeline, but.
Oh, well, there you go. Go ahead, sir. What can we take away from this, and why should people read it?
Well, there you go. Just me being curmudgeonly about all these damn overblown words. I'm sorry, media, but not every sandwich is beloved. And not every IP is iconic. And not every, the explosion of language into nonsense has become a real problem, not just about showbiz, but everything. And these articles where the headline has something about to counter this disturbing customer trend. And then you say, oh, gee, I want to know who, where. And then you have to read about 8, or at least scan through, I wouldn't suggest reading them, 8 or 10 paragraphs of nonsense interspersed with 4 or 5 advertisements before you ever get to what the story is about. What did I see one way? Oh, it was going to be a terrible, people should know that this is going away. And it was like a snack stand somewhere was going to go away. And I went, oh my God, was it beloved too? How long was it there for? Centuries? No, not quite. But
oh boy.
Hey, way back up at the top. I mean, I know you want to talk about this, and let's do that. But let's not lose track of the fact that somebody, who was it? Walter Tomaszewski gave us a
oh yes. Yeah. Oh, I. That's a good catch there, Lou. Walter Tomaszewski with the 199 OT. Does the cost of holding debt affect studios? Please.
You bet it does.
Yeah.
Every one of these things is financed. They don't just reach in their deep piggy bank and pull out $200 or $300 million. No. And if you got to reshoot and put off, like they've just put off the entire MCU for 6 months, that's 6 months of interest on an ever-increasing expenditure.
Absolutely.
So, the answer is it's just like your home loan, only worse. Because at least you get to keep the house eventually, but they don't know what they're going to have when they're done. It affects them. It affects them hugely. Good catch, Walter. Absolutely true. But meanwhile, let's see here.
Well, I wanted to ask you, Lou, about this because we just saw that Warner Bros. Discovery's stock just,
They said it's a junk category or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, how would that affect something like that? I mean, who in the world?
What that affects is the executives that are getting paid in stock options.
Yeah.
If they think it's going to get better, this is their big chance to jump in while it's cheap and go ahead and acquire those options. And it's funny when somebody put up Big Bob's compensation for the year, and I tried to explain the differences. It said his salary was $1 million, and then it said that his incentive stock, which meant if they reach certain targets, they give him more in stock, and then they had stock options, and then they had, I forget what the fourth category was. The point is they're all taxed different. They're taxed different to the company and taxed different to him.
Gotcha.
If you get stock, that sets the base price, whatever day you get it, as far as whether you're going to sell it at a profit or a loss. And of course, that's all capital gains tax, not income tax. But if you get an option, it's the day you exercise the option. So if I say, well, our stock is selling for $100, but we're going to give you, because you were such a good CEO, an option to buy it at 80. You don't have to spend it now. You don't have to buy it now. You can buy it any old time at 80. And so maybe you want to wait till it gets to, 200, if it ever does. And therefore, when you buy it and sell it, you buy it at 80 and sell it at 200, as opposed to people who buy stock and say, I hope it goes up. You know it's up from what you bought it at, but you also know you're going to pay the capital gains on the difference. So anyway, that gets into the weeds of exec comp. But
well, I think it's a really, really big deal. I don't even know who would maybe necessarily invest in a movie from Warner Bros. Discovery if they know that.
There's always somebody. It's just a question of what you got to give them to get it. Funny enough, Mr. Gucci, the founder of Gucci, said quality is remembered long after price is forgotten. But of course, that presumes that there's some quality. So
it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Well, thank you so much, Walter Tomaszewski, for providing that. I know you came in early, and thank you, Lou, for pointing that out, because I missed it. We were caught up in the amazement that is cinema right here. And, get caught up with us again. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but we provide you a whole lot of content. And we're doing stuff on That Park Place, providing you a lot of content there. We're going to be doing the Epic Universe roundup, basically, on Tuesday. But I'm wanting to have... Oh, go ahead, please, Luke.
Can we jump all over those putzes who did the blue carpet premiere stuff?
Yes.
Please,
yes.
God.
Oh man. I
was talking with somebody earlier about the music and how wonderful it is. And they recorded, 40 hours of music for Celestial Park alone for different times of the day and what have you. And I was listening to that for a good 30, 40 minutes before they came on the air. And the first thing they did was run a crappy commercial for Xfinity. And I thought, this is promoting you. You don't have to sell commercials on your own damn promotion. Somebody didn't get it. And then those people, those people that were doing the hosting were so, you just wanted to punch them. You just wanted to reach out through the screen and throttle their little pencil necks.
Oh boy. I mean, that was really tough.
And the guy promoting a new YouTube series that I'm doing for us, called, I think it was Coaster Co-Stars or something, where they get two people from a show and they put them on the coaster and see how they react. And I'm going, wow, that's high concept. Not. Anyway, and it was like, what's that doing here today? And then when they didn't know Mr. Nintendo, for God's sakes, they had no idea who he was, but they spent 10 minutes with Andy Cohen talking about Bravo. I'm blowing it all now. I should save it, I guess, or maybe I should blow it all now and not do it later. But it was seriously inept, and technically technically. Here's a little Hollywood terminology for you, gang. She's not too bad in that shot. That's is that Rick Baker's daughter or somebody? Anyway, or Lemley's granddaughter, I think she was. But you see how we can barely see her other eye? Most of the shots of guests being interviewed were what we call in the biz one-eyed jacks. And what that means is you get them in straight profile like these two guys and you never see their face. We never, ever, ever, ever want to do one-eyed jacks. Ever.
Right.
You want to see both two eyes because otherwise you don't get the perspective. Now, these guys were pretty good. Also, there was one of them, I forget who it was, one of the people standing there, and you could see their minders standing in the back holding their purse with a big red thing around their neck. And I'm going, go away, get out of the shot, get out of the shot. But that's probably what that guy down there is.
Oh, that's the guy. Yeah. There you go. And also, too, the glare.
Bored as hell because he is bored as hell because his job is to shepherd them around and flash a pass. I always tell the story about the opening day at DCA when I was there and Robert Mondavi's son, Michael, was standing in the vines and talking, and we were talking, and one of the little cast members came up and didn't know who he was and started to try and shoo him out of the grapevines. And I said, no, you don't understand. He's literally outstanding in his field.
Right. Right. I love that story. I love it so much.
How much coke did he do before this show? Oh, my God. That twitchy feely. And this was the next day when they got rid of the blonde, the chubby blonde who they dressed so poorly and all the other stuff that night before. Oh, man.
Well, the guy's actually a famous vlogger for Disney.
Famous for who is all I'm saying.
Oh boy, I suppose so. I suppose you're right.
And she was very good. This is the girl from which part of it did she do? I think it was Epic or Dark Universe. Or anyway, she was real good. Some of these people were great. The people that they interviewed. But there, look at that shot. What is that shooting? That's shooting a quarter of a face against a host. You favor the guest. There, see, that's what you do.
Well, but, especially when the guest starts talking, you really have to switch that camera over immediately. Well, this just gets awkward.
Look at this kid over on the right with his. I told Marvin earlier. I think it was last night. I came up with this. I said, here's the guys from the coaster thing. I think. But I told Marvin, I said, these hosts, they were to real online influencer people like us what cross-dressers are to real women. They were wearing influencer face. You know what I'm trying to say? It was like a stereotypical joke version. And I'm going, well, where did they find them? And well, they found them and they put them on the air.
I guess so. And Enoch says need a 2 or 3 camera setup. Yeah, that's the thing.
It was 2 or 3. They just were in the wrong place, and then the guy doing the cutting didn't know what he was doing, and they had all these dead air segments where they were in the background. You hear, no, cut to the.
Now, this is also what a technical coordinator would do, right?
Well, sorta, but they obviously didn't hire pros. Is all I'm saying.
Fair point.
It wouldn't have cost them that much more to get actual Directors Guild professionals to do this stuff. But what the hell? I mean, I know, for example, one of my dear friends from the Guild, who was a famous director, John Rich, was one of the camera guys at the Disneyland opening. When they had all those cameras everywhere. And
oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
They were doing it right. And I joked with these hosts. I said, I knew Ronald Reagan, and by passing acquaintance, Art Linkletter and Bob Cummings, Reagan was kind of a friend of mine. And believe me, kids, you're no Ronald Reagan as far as comparing the opening of Disneyland to this. And don't get me wrong, I love Epic and everything about it. I'm just embarrassed for them that they did such a crappy job of promoting it with this show and the one that came the next morning. And then the other thing they did that was really awful. Apparently, Universal has a live stream channel on YouTube for Orlando and another one for Hollywood. And they announced, hey, we're going to be giving away a goodie package to people. And you'll see the link on the screen and click on that, and it'll only last for a few minutes. But if you get in, you'll be in the running for a random choice to win. They put it on the Orlando one, but they didn't put it on the Hollywood one. And the people on the Hollywood one are going, where is it? Where is it? Where's the giveaway? Where's the giveaway? And they thought, oh, if I'm supposed to put the word giveaway, and suddenly here's 500 people typing giveaway in the chat, and nobody cracked wise.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Don't you plan it a little bit and say, well, we make sure it's in both places or not at all.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a $7.7 billion investment.
My point is not that they didn't do the really, really hard stuff well. It's that it's all really, really simple, basic. We've been making TV for 50 years stuff that they didn't know how to do either. So,
right.
Enough of micromanagement.
Well, and the produced stuff by the actual park, this stuff's actually done pretty well.
Sure.
And it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the celebration live stream would be undermined by, like you said, inexperience, especially for a $7.7 billion investment like Epic Universe. We'll be talking about that whole thing and more on T3PO Live. I really want to get people who have actually been there in the park. I'm trying to get Nolan. I'm also trying to get a special guest who we never had on T3PO Live as well. So that's going to be really, really cool. And that's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday. All right.
Yes.
Well, that's just.
I'll be there if the creek don't rise and the whatever.
Mm-hmm. That should be super, super cool. I cannot wait. And I have an air show to go to for Memorial Day. So you guys enjoy your Memorial Day. We will see you back tomorrow. Is Pro doing his live stream tonight?
I don't know.
Let me go ahead.
When is he not? I mean, you're right. It's Monday. He's been doing a Monday one. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, he does his Monday ones. Oh, yeah. It looks like he might be. Let's see. It's going to be tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. Looks like right there.
Between now and then, we should give you the greeting or the salutation farewell that the guys playing Igor give to all the guests in the park. I've seen it several times. As they walk away, they say, "Have a good day and don't die."
Yeah, don't die. Well, especially when providing us a question right there. That's going to be at T3P online at yahoo.com right there at the bottom of that screen. I am, let's see here. I believe Park Hoppin' has a live stream later on today. That takes place at 3 p.m. Eastern. Let me go ahead and see.
Yeah, they're good people. I watched them instead of the blue carpet morons, and they put on a good opening day trip around the park. Very, very good.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that whole controversy about were the medallions sold out or not, and they still had some. You shouldn't have given the people in the press the right to buy anything that exclusive. You should give them their own goodie bag with their own stuff in it and tell them thank you, but we're saving that for the guests. And if you couldn't trust them not to buy it, you don't stock it till a midnight crew comes on after they're gone and fills it all up for opening day. That was
so true. So true. I don't
saying, we had a few left is not an excuse, But there's good things. This was really interesting. In fact, I told Nolan about it because for those who don't know, and I don't think it's a secret, so I'm not blowing anything. Nolan is a vegan or vegetarian. This is the executive chef, and he showed a vegan mushroom ceviche at that Atlantic restaurant that looks just divine, absolutely divine. And what
I have heard that the food at Epic is awesome. Little pricey, but very high quality.
You can pay that much and get mediocrity down the road if you prefer.
That's exactly right. That's exactly.
The two telling things from the chat. We can mention it again tomorrow. I keep promoting the fact that for most Disney-only people, this is not one park. This is all of them because they've never been to Islands or the studios or even Volcano Bay either. And there were two chats during that awful show. One of them was from a woman in England who said that she had already had a Disney trip booked and was ready to go in August. She just canceled it and booked Universal instead. Secondly, there was a guy from the upper Midwest who said, I've never even been to the state of Florida in my whole life. I've never felt any great urge to go to the parks, but this one changes that. I want to go. So if you, those are just two little anecdotal chats, but if you assume there's 1,000 or 10,000 people to some degree along that line of thought, this is a game changer for more than just opening a theme park. This is a game changer for all tourism in Orlando. It really, really is.
I don't disagree at all. Very, very cool.
And it's pretty. Look at that. It's pretty.
Oh, it's beautiful. Pretty? It's beautiful. And we're going to be talking about that all on, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. Very, very cool. Am Nuck with the final message right here by Lou and Vash. Spend a moment remembering the purpose of the holiday and those who gave us all their freedom. Give us all their freedom. I do agree with that wholeheartedly. Like I said, going to be attending the air show. That's going to be all about that and more. And hopefully this, provide you a little bit of respite for people who have lost loved ones, and is something to celebrate for those who want to remember as well. So thank you so much for joining us here, and we will send you off to Park Hoppin'. It's not live right now, but I want to go ahead and make sure I forward that to Jay because I won't be on this time. Rats. That's okay. We will see you all later. Bye, everybody.